Okay, welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to be adding something called FancyBox to an Etch website. So prepare to feast your eyes on the greatest website you've ever seen in your life. Boom, jamesweldis.com. I built this site like 10 years ago. I watched a YouTube video or a Udemy course on how to create your own CMS with PHP and MySQL, and I wanted to test it out, so I did, and I built this weird site. I also used it to test a bunch of weird JavaScript and CSS things, most of which I've removed since then because they were dumb, but some of them still exist. So anywho, I've been rebuilding this website in WordPress, and I'm using Etch to do that, and part of this website is this little modal here. So you click on Learn More, and it just shows you some text about this particular thing. Pretty simple, right? I tried to do it myself with just JavaScript, and it was not working out. I got like 95% of the way there, but I could not get it to look right on mobile, so I just gave up. I said, you know what? The original site uses this thing called FancyBox. It's just a JavaScript library, so I'm just going to use that in the new site as well. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Also, this is a loop. Here's my WordPress version, and I created a custom post type. I called it thing because this title is here are some things I've done. So I created a custom post type called thing. I didn't even create any custom fields. I didn't need to. I just used the featured image for this picture, the title for this. I used the excerpt for this. I used the content for this text, and I used the slug of the post for, you'll see what I use that for later. So that's it, pretty simple. I'm not even going to show you the custom post because it's just literally custom post type called thing. That's it. So I'm going to show you how to build. I already did it, but I'm going to redo it so you can see how it's done. I'm going to rebuild this. You can see it's already working, and on mobile it looks fine. Click on this, and it puts it right in the center of the screen. If it's too long, it can scroll. Most of them aren't that long, so you don't have to worry about it. The only thing, yeah, for some reason that link isn't working on one of them. It's just putting the code. That's funny. Anywho, I'm going to show you how that works. I'm going to create this loop so I can display these posts, and I'm going to show you how I got this modal to work within that loop as well, and to make it work so when you click on this button it shows the right content and not, doesn't just pop up a random modal. The buttons show the correct content that they're supposed to. So step one, of course, was integrating FancyBox. If you just Google it, FancyBox, JavaScript, modal, whatever, you can download the file. It's just a JavaScript file and a CSS file. And I just enqueued them. Real simple stuff here. I'm using the Etch theme. You could drop these in like the header and footer if you wanted to, but that's not the WordPress way. So I did it the WordPress way. Very simple. There's probably also a CDN you could use. I don't know. These are also very old. They've probably updated because like I said, I built this 10 years ago and I have not gone in and updated my libraries. So this AOS one is also incredibly old, but they still work. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Anywho, that's step one. Get FancyBox added, and that's it. That's all you got to do there. I'm going to come back to my project. I created a blank page where we can build this little loop. And mine's not going to look very good because I'm not going to waste a bunch of time on styling, but I'm going to add a section. Doesn't really matter what I call it. This isn't a real website. And then I'll just create just right inside the container. I'm going to let the container be my container, my wrapper for this grid. Let's drop in a loop. Let's click this loop button here, and this is pretty simple. I'm going to come over here, and it's remembering this from before. So normally it wouldn't say thing here. I believe it would just say post because that's the default post. But my custom post type is called thing, so I'm going to delete post and type thing. And then over here, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to change item to thing. just because you never know. You might have more than one loop on a page, and it's nice to be able to look at the loop and immediately know what it's doing, right? If it says item, that doesn't make any sense. You have no idea what that is. So I changed it to thing, and you'll see where this comes in just a second. So inside this loop, I just want to drop like a flex div. Inside the flex div is an image, and then there's going to be a title, and then there's going to be that little excerpt, and then there's a button. And so we'll just make that a link. Okay? Easy peasy. Let's see here. Is that all we're gonna? Yeah, that's all we need in there. And then it didn't add them inside the div, so I'll just drag them up here. I don't know why I did that. Okay. And this is called, I'm going to call this card. And actually I'm going to call it thing card. And then we also need the modal. So I'll just make that another flex div, and I'll put it inside the loop. Doesn't really matter if it's above or below, but okay, come on. I really struggle with drag and drop. I'm going to call this modal, thing modal, and inside this is literally just a paragraph. I don't know, thing content. This is the title, this is the excerpt, and this is the learn more button. And let's see, will this populate through the loop as well if I create BEM classes? No, it did not. Okay, so I'm actually going to pull this out of the loop for now. And I'm going to do that again. Create BEM classes. Now all my stuff has a class. Okay. Now I'll drop my loop back in. Drag this up here. Drag these two things inside the loop. Okay. Basic stuff. The modal needs to be display none because it doesn't show up at first until you click on the button, right? Let's see here. I'm just going to steal some CSS here because I'm lazy. Lazy. Here we go. Okay, and steal some more for the container. Yeah. And here's my card. And web development is so much faster when you're just stealing code, you know what I'm saying? Okay, there's our little cards. Very cool. It's not perfect. Color's not the right color for some reason. There we go. Okay. So first things first, let's just kind of handle the loopy loop parts of this. So click on loop. We got thing here. We got item. I'm going to change that back to thing. So this part is really cool. It's super fast and easy and powerful. I'm going to click on this, and first of all, you'll notice I only built one card earlier, but there's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's because we said we're doing post type of thing, and there are 5. I've created 5 of these already, so that's what it's doing. It's looping and it's displaying the same static content once for each post, right? And we don't want this to be static, of course. We're going to make it dynamic. And to do that, very simple. We're going to click on this, and we're going to use WordPress language. You know WordPress calls the featured image on a post? they call it, whoops, the thumbnail. So for this image source, I'm just going to say curly brace thing.thumbnail. Boom. There's our featured image. You can see it's different for each one. For this, I'm going to say curly brace thing.title. And now it's pulling in the title of each one. And you see we're using thing because here we changed it to thing. If we put this back to item, everything breaks. And then we would have to come here and instead of saying thing, we would say item. So I just want to show you, like, you can make this literally whatever you want. Just make it something that makes sense. Okay. So I'll put this back. And I'm using all default stuff. I didn't create any custom fields, so this is very easy. The excerpt, it's very easy. Thing.excerpt. My dryer is, or washer is very loud behind me. I'm sorry for that. Okay, and this button, the href, we're just going to delete this and put in a little hashtag. I said a little hashtag. There we go. And that's it. Again, I'm not going to worry about the styling. I'm not going to make these look nice. We're going to save that. I'm going to come over here to the modal. Get rid of display none for a second just to see, so I can see it. And I'm going to click on this. And for the content of this, I'm going to say thing.content. There we go. Apex branding design, blah, 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 1 million cups, blah, blah, blah. So that's all working just fine. We'll put this back to display none. We'll save. We'll go look at the front end. And there's our grid of posts. Now this button doesn't work yet, but we're gonna make it work now. So if we look at the existing site to see kind of how this works, I'll click this to open the modal and we'll take a look at the code. You can see the modal has, here it is, it has the ID, this one has the ID of prototype WP and has a class of FancyBox content, which actually you can ignore that doesn't even do anything. But notice this ID, prototype WP, and we look at this button. It has this data attribute called data source hashtag prototype WP. Okay, and that's where the magic happens. This button needs to have this data attribute, data-FancyBox, that tells the FancyBox plugin, hey, look at this button, it's trying to do FancyBox stuff. The data source says, look for an element with this ID. That's the one that we're going to display when this button is clicked. So you might be thinking, well, how do you do that without, since this is being generated by the loop, how do you make sure that this button has this data source of something and then this modal has the ID of the same something? How do you do that? Well, it's actually very simple. What I did was I used the slug of the post. Since that has to be unique, WordPress handles that for you, right? Even if you try to name two posts the same title, it will give it a unique slug. It'll just add like -2 to the end of it or whatever, right? So you can confidently know that the slug is always going to be unique. So you don't run into the issue of you click a button and it opens two modals at once because they both have the same ID or whatever, right? That'll never happen because the slug of the post is unique. So how do you use the slug of the post in all of this stuff that we're doing here? Very simple. Just like we did all the other stuff, thing.this, thing.that, we can use thing.slug. So we'll click on this. First, you have to give it that data attribute of, what was it, data FancyBox. And if you just do this, Etch kind of breaks it for some reason. So you have to give it a value. You don't normally need to do this, but if you don't give it a value, Etch like gives it a blank value. It makes it equals and then empty quotes, and then it doesn't work. So just give it a value, and then you have to give it that other data attribute of data-source equals, and we'll just do hashtag and then thing.slug. And then we'll bring the modal back up here. Is this the right one? Yep, modal. And we're just going to say ID equals thing.slug. Now, hopefully this works. It should. But it's a demo video, so you know, it probably won't. Let's refresh and see what happens. Hey, it worked. First try. So it's the right content, Apex branding design, click on this, Apex branding design. 1 million cups, click on this, 1 million cups. Boom. Everything works. And it's all automated from now on. So all you have to do is add a new thing. Go ahead and give it an excerpt. Featured image, we'll just reuse this guy. And publish. And if we go back to that page, there's the new one. Click on this, and there it is. Easy peasy. So easy that your client can do it. You build all this stuff that you just saw in the video, and then your client can easily go in and add a new instance of whatever the post type is, and they don't have to worry about any of this fancy stuff. They just know that it will work. Easy peasy. So that's it. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you found that useful, and I'll catch you later.